and welcome to the Bloomington Rotary Club's weekly celebration of service for February 2nd, 2021. I'm your current president, Ashley Wesley. Thank you for being here. Natalie, please show the flag graphic for 15 seconds of respectful silence. We ask that you remain on mute and take this time to personally reflect. Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce Judy Schroeder, who will be offering our reflection. Judy?
Thank you, Ashley. Well, I love words, and the other day I met a new one. The weather app on my phone said that we should expect graupel. Graupel? What's that? Turns out that it's a kind of snow. And you know how we've always heard that Eskimos have 50 different words for snow. Well, this one is of a Germanic origin, but they have similar words in Russian and Polish and Icelandic and Old Norse. And it comes from a very tiny piece of barley, hulled barley. And what it is a snowflake coming down and encountering some really cold water on the way so that it forms an outer layer and it comes down and it's also called a snow pellet. These are tiny and they're white, they're soft. So it's also called soft hail, and they look like little balls of styrofoam. So you've probably seen graupel without knowing that you were seeing graupel. Wait a minute, somebody's saying, this is not a serious, highfalutin reflection, and that I'm so sorry, but what do you expect on a day when we honor a rodent as a meteorologist? Thank you and happy Groundhog Day.
Thank you, Judy. Oh, I think I needed that laugh today. Okay, we have many guests with us today, and so I won't be introducing each one of you individually, but thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. And if you have any questions about Rotary, please ask any Rotarian you see. We'd be happy to help you with more information. And we just really appreciate you coming and hearing our presentation today. Thanks to our producers, Natalie Blaze, Michael Shermis, Sally Gaskell, and Aaron Davis for helping make this all run smoothly. And our roundabout reporter for this week is Alon Barker. We have a few birthdays. Cindy Neidhart is today, February 2nd. Happy birthday. And Bill Murphy is February 7th. Membership anniversaries, Rosie and Artie Levy are 1 year with the club. I can't believe it's been that long, but we also feel like you've been with us for longer. So thank you for being part of our family. Martha Foster, 10 years overall, 7 years in our club, and immediate past president Aaron Davis, 7 years. We're so glad you're part of the Rotary family. If that doesn't sound right to you, Aaron, please correct me and we'll get it right and we'll make an adjustment next time. All right. We had a few Rotarians in the news I'll mention very briefly. Hal Turner had a guest column in the HT entitled Indiana Senators Encouraged to Continue Work on Climate Solutions. I encourage you to check it out. It was a nice piece on bipartisan efforts. And Rotarian Kate Cruikshank was featured in a front page story detailing her journey with receiving the COVID-19 vaccine. She offered a tip that I wanted to share with you guys. Calling 211 for assistance in the slower traffic times between 7 and 8 can help ensure you get a representative. So make sure that you use that tip if you're trying to schedule your appointment. Our volunteering spotlight, we still need 3 volunteers for our session at Hoosier Hills Food Bank tomorrow, February 3rd, from 4 to 5:30. Please let me know if you'd like to claim a spot, and I'm going to drop the link in the chat if you'd like to secure that spot here. But we need to fill those 3 so that we have everybody for that session. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be safe and help out the Hoosier Hills Food Bank. All right, I'm going to pass it along to Mike Baker for our next presentation.
Good afternoon. Most of you know we lost a good friend, Keith Klein, Monday, January 25th. Keith began his life in Gary, Indiana, July 4th, 1941. He always enjoyed everyone saying happy birthday to him on the 4th. I think he thought that's what all the fireworks were about. It's no wonder that he was also the MC for the 4th of July parade. Keith went to college at IU, spent 5 years as an NBC reporter. He was a program director at WTIU, taught at Ivy Tech, always using his broadcasting skills and voice for community fundraisers and events. I remember him covering the Cook Group go-kart races around downtown Square, and he treated it like it was the Indianapolis 500. He was involved with the Internal Order of Demolay, a 33rd degree Mason, and was a proud Rotarian, also a Paul Harris Fellow. Joined our club in 1985. He was club president, I believe, in 205 and 206. And I always remember him sitting in the back corner, usually with Joe Poling, Virginia Rose, Marshall, and others, and they would always get off on some discussion about either the school board or politics. But I bet most of you didn't know that Keith was a lifelong Indiana high school football referee. Can you imagine Keith running up and down the field for 50 years? In fact, the Indiana High School Athletic Association awarded him special recognition for his 50 years of continuous referee work. He probably would have gone on longer, but he was clipped during the game, and that's how he broke his leg. So you think of Keith running up and down the field for 50 years. That's the Keith I remember. Judy, can you say a few words, please? You're on mute. Judy, you're on mute.
Keith did serve our community and our families for 12 years on our school board. He was president for 3 years, and not normally vocal at board meetings. Keith was a calming force who always listened with a twinkle in his eye and then provided rich suggestions to enhance whatever endeavor we were pursuing. He never wanted credit, but wanted us to do whatever it took to help our students. When speaking about upcoming special events for children, like a violin concert, an arts display, robotics competition, coding lessons, his eyes welled with tears as he talked about attending those events and how important that was for kids. When he spoke about the radio or TV class or journalism, the newspaper or yearbook, he could talk forever on that. And yes, sometimes we did have to cut him off. He was passionate about experiences for kids, and particularly in journalism, getting the story right. He and I talked a lot about getting the story right. Keith's calming support and willingness to support whatever needed to be done for children will be greatly missed. Personally, Keith never shied away from giving me his thoughts, his views. He was more than a board member. He was a true friend to children, families, education, and personally to me.
Susie Graham, you're on mute, Susie.
Thanks for that reminder, Mike, because I just would have been talking. So I'm happy to share some remarks on behalf of Ivy Tech, where Keith also worked while he was doing his MCCSC board duties and his officiating. He actually officiated multiple high school sports. I don't know if everyone knows that. And as I start, I'd just like to remind everyone that, so Ivy Tech knew Keith both there, but also through Rotary. Joyce Poling, Jim Heinzen, of course, who was with us, Kay Leach, all counted Keith as a good friend. He became a part of Ivy Tech Bloomington Village about 20 years ago. It seems like a blink now. The time just flew. After a brief period in our development office, he followed his heart to the classroom, bringing his love and natural talent for speech and communications to his students. Keith became more than their instructor. He was their advocate, their friend, and their North Star, always true and always a guiding force for them. Keith was also a generous colleague and a real idea guy, sharing freely with his fellow faculty and staff. He knew no strangers and was a friend to everyone. He was known to slip into other colleagues' classes, especially fellow school board member Lois Sabo Skelton's music classes, sometimes to listen and sometimes to participate. He emceed innumerable events for us, our village meetings, O'Bannon Institutes for civic engagement, and of course our commencement. We're still coming to terms with Keith's passing. We know we will miss his boundless energy and his passion for teaching. We will miss his sense of humor and his humility. We will miss his beautiful, beautiful voice, and we will miss his love for us. Rest in peace, dear friend.
Bill, can you bring it home for us?
Certainly. Keith always used to say he had a face made for radio, but in reality, he had a voice made for radio. And Susie, thanks for mentioning that. I think we can all hear that in our minds, him telling us a joke or making us feel better or encouraging us. And he was very generous. I replaced Keith at WTIU, but he also continued to volunteer and be on the air. And one of my most vivid memories of him has to do with doing a live break, not much time left. And Keith went off on a tangent, as he often did. And he may have gotten some things wrong and added some anecdotes that I didn't know about. But at the end, he had that twinkle in his eye. And he said, "Isn't that right, Phil?" So I was left with about 12 seconds to sum it all up and make everything right again. So if you have a beverage, I have a Pepsi in honor of Keith's favorite beverage. Raise a glass. Here's to the twinkle in your eye, Keith. Godspeed. God bless.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that wonderful tribute. We have the next part of our presentation is a special presentation also from Mike Baker to our newest Paul Harris Fellow +2. Mike?
You unmute. Yes. Now more than ever, Rotary International needs our support financially, especially because of the COVID pandemic. So I hope you consider making a small contribution monthly or quarterly. Just let Natalie know and she can set you up. But today I have the pleasure of presenting a Paul Harris +2 presentation. If you already know who will be presented this honor today, you can't play this game. So if you have a guess of who will be honored today after a few clues, raise your hand and the winner will get a bottle of Bean Blossom Maple Works maple sugar, which I'm going to be making soon. Okay, here are your clues. Anyone need mediation? Don't see any hands come up yet. Did you learn about this person from the Daily Student? Journalism ring a bell? Past president? Phil and Judy? Okay, Judy.
John Dilts.
Well, I guess you won. Yes, John Dilts is the correct answer. John joined our club in 1998, was president of our club. He's been an active supporter of our club and Rotary and the Rotary Foundation since early in his Rotary membership. John joins many across the world in our club who have chosen to support the ideals of Rotary through financial support and service to local organizations our club supports. John, I hope you received your new pin. If you do, you'll have to pin yourself. I would hope that everyone here today would join with me and welcome John Dilts to his Paul Harris Fellow +2 achievement. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Say just a quick word, if I can. Am I on?
Yep.
Okay, I want everybody to notice my foundation banners behind me here. These are all to support the Rotary Foundation. And so my whole room is full of all of these things. You can see that that's true. One other thing real quickly, I was reading a long article in the New Yorker, and it was comparing the progressive era with today's
I think you froze up, John.
Oh no. Well, we might have lost him, but we'll allow him to make his remarks a little later. I'm sure it was going to be fantastic. Okay, without further ado, let's move on to Sally Gaskell. Will you introduce our speakers for today?
Thank you, Ashley. I would love to. So we'll set the stage. 15 years ago, Cardinal Stage was born in Bloomington with a production of Thornton Wilder's Our Town at the Buskirk Chumley Theater. Cardinal Stage quickly grew to be the largest arts organization in the region with an annual budget of close to $1 million. Everything changed in March of last year, and today's speakers will address how the company has reacted to the pandemic. So to do that, I'm pleased to introduce Cardinal's dynamic leadership team. First, Gabe Gloden has been managing director of Cardinal Stage since 2016. Gabe's a native of Northwest Ohio, but has called Bloomington his home for most of his adult life. Before arriving at Cardinal Stage, he served as managing director of several other theater companies, including the Bloomington Playwrights Project. Gabe has a master's from the O'Neill School at IU and lives with his wife, the playwright Emily Goodson, and their 2 young children. And Kate Galvin was appointed artistic director at Cardinal Stage in 2017. Originally from Philadelphia, Kate has directed plays and musicals throughout the country, as well as for Cardinal here in Bloomington. She's a graduate of NYU and the University of London and serves as a board member of the National Alliance of Musical Theater, and thrilled to invite Gate and Cabe. Oh, I can't believe I said that.
Yes, that can be our new name.
I love it.
I like it.
Take it away.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Sally. And yes, thank you for giving us our new dynamic duo name, Cabe. I like it. So yeah, thank you for having us. Certainly producing theater in a pandemic where no one's allowed to be in the same room with each other has been a huge challenge for us. So what Gabe and I are going to share with you today are some of the things that we have done to adapt what we do. We've felt since the beginning that it's really important that we not just sort of give up on trying to make art. Cardinal Stage is such a big part of the Bloomington community, and we really gave a lot of thought to how to use theater as a way to continue community engagement despite the fact that we can't be together in the way we traditionally gather when we come to the theater. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the programming changes that we've made for this season. There's been a lot of experimentation, and then Gabe's going to talk to you about some of the more strategic aspects of how we've been taking advantage of this time where we're in a sort of forced pause to think big about the future of our organization. Anything you want to add before I dive in, Gabe?
No, that's great, Kate. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen because I've got some photos. So we named this season our season of artistic adventure. And as I said earlier, we were really trying to focus on creating theater and theater experiences that would continue my goals of like engaging the mind, touching the soul, and strengthening the community through theater. We wanted to create theatrical experiences that would take people away from their computer screens, knowing how much time we're all spending staring at the Zoom void right now. So we wanted to think creatively and get people actively engaged in storytelling, in acting, in dance, and in music. The first program that we rolled out last May is called Cardinal Playdates, and it's a monthly script reading book club. which is totally free for anyone to be a part of. And we read scripts and then we meet on Zoom. And one of the advantages of this is that I've been able to pull in artists from all over the country, playwrights, actors, directors, to meet with our members and talk to them about their work. And it's been a really cool way for me to get to know some of our most dedicated patrons better during this time. Normally I just see people at shows and we might chit chat for 5 minutes, but over the course of this year, I'm really getting to know people and get some insight into how they think about theater in a deeper way, which has been really exciting for me. In July, we hosted a, there we go, social disc dance party. I commissioned a local choreographer to create sort of a flash mob style dance that people could learn via a YouTube tutorial at home. And then we gathered on the hottest day of the summer in Bryant Park on a Saturday afternoon and practiced and performed this dance for family and friends. And our choreographer also hosted some fun dance games. It was a really fun family event. And I'm hoping that we'll do another one of those this spring on a day that maybe isn't 1,000 degrees outside. In August, we launched a program called Cardinal at Home. We commissioned playwrights from Bloomington and beyond to write 10-minute plays that people could perform at home, either with the members of their household or over Zoom with friends who are not in their household. And that's been really cool. It's been a great opportunity for us to actually put a little bit of money in artists' pockets who are normally out of work at this strange moment in time, and to give people a chance to create art in their own homes and develop some relationships with new playwrights who hadn't worked with us before. So that was really exciting. We are going to be releasing an anthology of those. We did, I think, 6 months worth of 10-minute plays with a play getting released each month. And we're going to be releasing that anthology in the next month or so. So you'll be able to find that if you're interested. We've also had teachers who've used some of those plays as drama exercises with their students. So it's been a really interesting program and a good way for us to meet some new artists. We also launched what we call the Family Photo Challenge in August, and this was a social media contest, getting people to think creatively about storytelling. You can see here, we've got, these are several different versions of Little Red Riding Hood. We encourage families to retell commonly told stories in 10 photos or less and post them on social media. So as you can see, we got people thinking about what the important elements of the story were and also how best to tell it, utilizing costumes, utilizing props, all those things that we use in the theater to do what we do. And then that was all before September. In September, we launched our kind of flagship program of the fall, which is our Walkabout Radio Plays series. And here you can see your very own Sally Gaskell out on a walkabout with Lynn Schwartzberger. We commissioned 2 local playwrights, including Gabe's wife, to create shows that were set, to create a series that was set in Bloomington and played on some history that Emily and her writing partner Josie discovered on campus. This is 4 episodes that patrons could download to their phones and then go out, and all the show was a radio play, so you're listening to it, and each scene took place at a different location around town. So we had 2 episodes that were set on IU's beautiful campus during the fall when it was gorgeous and the leaves were changing, and then 2 episodes that were set downtown around the square and on the Beeline. And this was one whole storyline, 4 episodes long. So it was a kind of pretty big project that we utilized local actors and, like I said, local playwrights for. We're going to be doing another one of those in the spring, which I will tell you about later. But that was a very successful program, and something that allowed us to think in a new way about what theater can be and how environment can influence storytelling. And of course, as you all know, education is a big part of what we do at Cardinal Stage. We couldn't do student matinees as we normally do each season. So in the fall, we started a virtual drama club, which Francesca Subre led in our fall session. And we had a group of, I think, 10 or 12 young students, most of whom had never auditioned for a Cardinal show or done any acting before. So we had these real newcomers to theater who were dipping their toes in for the first time. And I think that the virtual platform probably lowered the barrier to entry a little bit for those kids who might be too afraid to go to an in-person acting class where they feel like they're really on the spot and everybody's looking at them. So we are continuing that drama club. We've got 2 sessions running right now, serving students ages 8 to 18. So that just started back up. And then in December, we launched our very first virtual cabaret. We're going to have a series of 3. This was a Home for the Holidays, featuring local artists singing some of their favorite holiday tunes. We streamed this. This was our first truly kind of remote streaming programming that we did. And as the weather's changed and we can't get people outside safely anymore, it's too cold. So we pivoted for the winter to do a more online based programming, and this was a great success. We had about 50 households tune in for each of the 4 performances. So we were really happy with that, thinking about under normal circumstances, probably we'd have about 100 people come to a cabaret. So that translated to what we expected in terms of attendance, and that was really encouraging. So we have some more of those coming this spring. So I'm going to hand it over to Gabe before I tell you what is coming down the pike next. Take it away, Gabe.
Thanks, Kate. And yeah, I just want to thank Rotary and Sally again for inviting us to speak this afternoon. And it's amazing to see so many friendly faces, people that I know and love, and it just reminded me how much I really want this pandemic to be over so I can see you guys again. It's been, for most of you on the line, over a year. And like Kate mentioned, we've been as busy as ever, churning out programming, trying to keep folks engaged. But we have used a good chunk of this time, I think, to really focus on some long-term strategizing and how not only our organization can emerge from this pandemic stronger at the end of it, but also how we can support just the broader arts community in general. And I wanted to talk about one of those things right now in a little bit more detail, as it is very timely. As most of you know, right at the onset of the pandemic, Ivy Tech Bloomington chose to permanently shutter the Waldron Arts Center and return the ownership back to the city of Bloomington. And since then, obviously, Cardinal has been very interested as to the future of this facility, since it is our primary performance venue. We do 90% of our programming there, including all of our Cardinal for Kids programming, which serves, as many of you know, area students from a 8-county region now in Indiana, which is really incredible. So it's an incredibly important resource to us and the local performing arts and visual arts community. And so I wanted, we've been working really hard on a proposal for the future of the Waldron, which we delivered to the city in November. And I wanted to kind of step you folks through this really quickly, because some of you have already seen this, but it's something that we're proud of, and it is, again, an evolving kind of proposal where, and I'll talk a little bit at the end of this, is what currently is happening with the Waldron and the future of the space and how you folks can help get involved as well. So real quick history, many of you know the Waldron was not created to be an arts center. It is definitely a city building that has been repurposed for the arts. And it has had 2 very great stewards since 1990 that have developed its capacity as an arts center, focusing on the visual arts and the performing arts. But over the years, the overhead and a number of other financial factors have contributed to those 2 entities, the Bloomington Area Arts Council and Ivy Tech, having to return ownership back to the city. And so there is a very big and I think important question that everyone's asking themselves, which is, this is, it's gone on two owners now, two stewards as an arts center. Is this a viable resource as an arts center going forward? And we absolutely believe not only is it an essential resource, but it hasn't yet reached its fullest potential. Whoops. We see the future of the Waldron really as kind of an evolution of what it currently is. We want to see that historic character of the building maintained, but we want the development of the community-based art focus of the venue to expand, and we want that expansion to really truly promote operational sustainability. I think we want the next steward of this really important resource to be the last or a sustaining steward for the foreseeable future. So we see an improvement not only of the space for all of the performance groups, but also an evolution of the gallery space to increase foot traffic through that venue for the visual arts. We see the absolute essential need of creating new revenue streams that can help sustain this facility going forward. And we also see the need to appeal to non-arts groups to help bolster rental revenue and other revenue streams. And we want to absolutely maintain our commitment to WFHB, the community radio station, as a permanent in-kind tenant of that building. Many of you know they've been there for decades now. We see a renovation necessary in the very near future at the $3 to $5 million range, which, I don't think is all that much considering what we want to do to the space and what we think the community needs to see in that space. And I'll just very briefly kind of go over some of the key features. Obviously on the lower level where that Rose Fire Bay small performance space, we really want to improve the infrastructure in that space to make sure it's a really turnkey performance venue for a lot of local arts organizations. We see dedicated gallery space and a classroom space down there. But the main level, that main floor area, we really see it as having the most radical transformation for the future of the building. We want to see that space expanded to include an art bar, cafe, and gift shop, and a dedicated box office space that can serve both of the two performance venues, and also additional gallery space for the display of art. So this is a space that could be open during regular business hours, serving patrons to the bar and cafe, and also serve as a nice meeting place before and after shows for theater patrons as well. And then upstairs, obviously, we want to continue to improve the experience in the auditorium up there, new risers, new seating, an improved backstage area for all of our artists. And finally, some dance-friendly flooring in the auditorium. It's something that's been lacking for decades now, and we need to absolutely upgrade that infrastructure. We also want to see some other changes that can help improve anything. Obviously, deferred maintenance is a big issue with old buildings like this. We need new windows, new entryways, new HVAC in there. We see the addition of an exterior lift on the alleyway side that could allow easy load in and load out of sets to the auditorium. Some of you know that have been in a load out or a load in at the Waldron know that we carry those set pieces up to the auditorium via the same steps that every patron uses with the same passenger elevator. That has got to absolutely improve. And then we also like to see taking advantage of our proximity to Fountain Square Mall, possibly creating a breezeway, a walkway that connects Fountain Square Mall to the art bar and cafe that could include additional space for artists to display their work as well. So all of this is to say, this evolution of this center as an art space, we really see, the next step in this space being a venue that needs a, comprehensive, robust, professional performing arts organization that can lead it. It hasn't had that before, and we feel like we can possibly create a solution going forward. And this brings us to, I think, the most exciting component of this proposal, which is this robust partnership that we're proposing with our friends from Bloomington Playwrights Project and the Pegasus Institute, which operates the Bloomington Academy of Film and Theater. We are proposing our three organizations partner to manage the Waldron space so we can free up some more community venue space with the addition of the BPP's venue also as part of the venues. Nurture and incubate emerging artists. That's a really important thing that we've discussed, the need for, as our professional arts organizations continue to professionalize, creating room for new and emerging artists that are aspirationally professional to have resources available to them to, professionalize. Better pay for artists and technicians. That's something that's really close to Kate and I in our hearts, and continuing to just evolve the professionalization of the performing arts in general. We see the performing arts spaces continuing to be managed as primarily community art space for local community and performing arts groups. And so we really want to see a tiered rental system where it prioritizes those local community arts groups and those emerging groups as the primary venue for those folks. So prioritizing their tenancy before we take those remaining weeks where the performance spaces are dark and try to book outside events or non-local events in there. And this is where I think another exciting aspect of this partnership kind of presents itself, is it helps us continue to further develop our relationship with the Buskirk Chumley Theater and BCT Management there, which is the premier venue management organization in town. And we would be partnering with BCT Management to handle all of the box office services for all of our renters. They would also work with us to handle and manage all of the rentals for outside non-local arts groups and touring performances, so we can really make that space fully occupied, vibrant throughout the year. And also we would be looking at sharing technical support services for the venues as well. So that's an exciting partnership that presents itself with this proposal. Obviously, we're a performing arts group. We're not a visual arts group, and we're certainly not a bar or a cafe. So we absolutely still see the need to be working with local professionals and experts in those two fields to develop the design and the work necessary to create the gallery space, evolve the gallery space, partnering with Gallery Walk and making sure that Waldron continues to be an important venue for Gallery Walk, and partnering with a local vendor to be able to manage the art bar and cafe under some kind of revenue sharing contract. All of those things is I think we need to do in the very near future if this proposal was to go forward. We're really, really excited that we have the interest of our good friends at Cook Group on this partnership. We've worked with them to secure a significant multi-year pledge that would allow us to create a challenge matching gift that could support investment in developing some of these new streams of programming and other new sustainable sources of revenue to help us not only manage the Waldron, but continue to grow our operations. And this could possibly include potential capital support for the partnership to get working on the Waldron renovation immediately, with the goal of completing the first phase ready by the time the center is ready to reopen to the public, which is really exciting. So thank you to our friends at Cook Group that really believe in this proposal. So time is of the essence. We've asked the city in our proposal for a long-term lease of the Waldron Arts Center under a nearly identical agreement to Ivy Tech Bloomington that will allow us to begin working on this new vision for the Waldron. And we also asked for an additional $25,000 in new grant support to be added to the BAC, the Bloomington Arts Commission's grants program, to establish a performing arts venue grant program that would help sustain or incubate these new emerging arts groups that we're hoping to work with if this proposal goes forward. So really quickly about what currently is happening with the Waldron, the city has assembled a recommendation task force. Here are the members currently serving on the task force. They are meeting regularly. We are expecting some recommendations from the task force to be delivered to the mayor sometime in April. And so this leads me to what you can do. If you believe that the Waldron should continue as a community arts center and you think this proposal deserves some consideration, please, please, please let the mayor's office know that you want to see the Waldron continue as a community arts center, and please ask them to seriously consider this proposal. We have full versions of this proposal. This is obviously just an overview. If you would like to provide us with some feedback on potential changes, suggestions, or you just want to see the proposal, absolutely feel free to email me. I'm happy to discuss it in more detail with you. But thank you for your consideration. I'll turn it back over to Kate so she can tell us what's going on in the very near future here.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm gonna just let you know a couple things that are upcoming. We're going to be producing a full-ish production of Adam Gwan's musical Ordinary Days. That's going to be streaming on demand beginning next week for 2 weeks. And Ordinary Days is a really sweet and fun musical that celebrates the big impact of life's small moments. Our characters are a couple who faces new challenges when they decide to move in together, and strangers who take trepidatious steps towards friendship when their paths cross unexpectedly. Their lives collide in surprising ways in this sort of fairy tale set in the big city in New York. It's a beautiful piece. We had a wonderful cast who all recorded everything remotely from their apartments in 3 different time zones all over the country. And that's going to be rolling out next week. So I want to just share a little song. This is an excerpt by one of our actors that he recorded for us earlier this year. And this is Julian Diaz-Granados, who was the lead in Newsies. If you saw it last year, he's returning for this production.
So could you share the sound from your computer as well? We're not hearing anything.
It looks good though.
It does.
Should I try to sing over Julian?
The problem, I think, is Kate's not, she's on
Sharing.
mute.
She's not sharing sound from her computer. She's sharing screen, but not the sound at the same time.
If it's acceptable, maybe we could put this excerpt on the Rotary Facebook page.
Yeah, I will definitely do that. Yeah, it looks great. It looks really fantastic.
Yeah, Kate, the only way you're going to get sound is to probably go out and come back again in and share sound when you have your share screen. Otherwise, it probably won't share.
Have we lost Kate?
Maybe Kate can hear it and she can't hear us, so she just thinks we're really having a great time.
Oh, I hope not.
There we go. Hi.
Hi, sorry, could you not hear any of that?
We didn't hear any sound.
Oh no, I couldn't hear you. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. Anyway, he sounded great. Sorry about that. Oh, I'm so embarrassed.
Thanks for letting us know.
Anyway, you can hear Julian starting next week, February 11th through 21st. I'm so sorry about that. My apologies. And then coming up later in the spring, we've got 2 more virtual cabarets. And as I said, a second Walkabout Radio Play series, which is going to be a Sherlock Holmes themed series based here in Bloomington. So that will be coming down the pike later this year. That's what I got.
All right, thank you so much. We can open up for questions now for Kate and Gabe, if anyone wants to take it away.
Do send us the link.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Given the budget you have, and since this isn't an original building designed for your purposes, have you considered building a custom space versus trying to renovate a building that may not suit the purpose perfectly?
Yeah, that's a great question, and definitely one that we've considered. And yeah, I think it's important to note that the Waldron, because it's an old city building, is never going to be a perfect performing arts center, visual arts center. It's that kind of building. It's going to be something that's retrofitted for our needs now. With that being said, it is the closest thing we currently have to a adequate space that can serve all of our local community arts groups in most of their needs. A new, shiny, turnkey, built-to-spec performing arts center, I would love to see that happen tomorrow. I don't think anyone in the arts center, arts community here locally would say that's something that they don't want to see happen. But we're talking right there, 10, 15 million plus. And I do think that price tag, especially when we're talking about, dealing with, depleted city funds, maybe limited private resources. This is a community that, while it really does value and support the arts, there isn't really a culture of arts philanthropy, maybe in the same way at a major metropolitan area you would see, like major foundations giving to major capital projects like new art centers. So dealing with limited resources, I personally, and I know Kate feels the same, and our partnership certainly feels that the Waldron is what we got, and we can absolutely make it what this community needs and deserves. It's just going to take some creative thinking. Would you have anything to add, Kate?
No, I think you're spot on. The reality is, I don't think, including Cardinal, that there's an arts organization in town that has the capacity to raise as much money as we would need to raise in order to build something from scratch and maintain something from scratch. That's the kind of, if you build it, they will come, has been a really big hindrance to a lot of nonprofits all over the country and all over the globe. That has actually bankrupted organizations as a result of having just such a huge investment in the capital of the building and leaving no resources or bandwidth for actually running the organization.
I have a question.
That being said, if anyone knows a billionaire that's got $10 to $15 million to burn on the local arts community, please point us in the right direction. We'll happily talk to them about what we can do for Bloomington.
Well,
but yeah.
I have a question. Excuse me. You hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hear you loud and clear, Charlotte.
My question is, I think with the pandemic, the whole issue of the convention center has really been transformed. I don't think that we're going to be doing that. But is there a possibility that in lieu of that, or possibly as part of a small movement, that the county and the city could commit money to an arts center rather than the convention center? I think there's a bit better argument for that now than there was before, and less argument for the convention center, given what we've learned.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a possibility for sure, Charlotte. It's not something we've heard anyone suggest yet at this point. We have heard some people suggest that perhaps there could be a dedicated performance space in the convention center,
Right.
but we've not seen any details on what that could be.
Right.
My other concern with embedding a performing arts space in a convention center would be a question of unionization. In my experience, convention centers are highly unionized, and we run the risk of having a performance space that is simply impossible for any local groups to afford because if it becomes unionized. So that's
I'm thinking
a concern that I have about that.
I mean, in lieu of a convention center.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether that's, whether that would gain any traction, but I think it should be out on the
Worth
table.
floating for sure.
Absolutely.
So I have a question. Thank you both for your presentation. It's exciting to see new plans for the Waldron. I know Sally worked at the Waldron, right, Sally? I worked at the Waldron. And as I was envisioning what you're proposing, I'm trying to think, all right, so where will these new spaces materialize? Where will they be found? And it seems like there is a shift with that one part of the mission that both the Area Arts Council had and Ivy Tech had, and that was education. So I'm curious if you could address that a little bit, because it seems to me that those classrooms are probably going to have to go, right, to accommodate some of these other things that you're talking about.
Yeah, Susie, I'm glad you brought that up, and that definitely is. There's going to be, I think, a bit of a trade-off. There's not unlimited space, as to work with there at the Waldron. We see there being the potential to maintain one of the downstairs, like ground level classrooms as like an all-purpose, classroom, meeting space, what have you. But yes, the one of the big classroom space on the main level that would get blown out to accommodate the patronage for the box office, gift shop, cafe. So yeah, that I think what we're hoping to do is to work with the local visual arts community to make sure that there is still adequate visual arts education space downtown, and how this center can continue to serve that need without it being, one of the primary areas of focus. We don't want it to go away, but in an effort, I think, to continue to promote operational sustainability, like we mentioned, I think finding new revenue sources is going to be absolutely key to the future of that building.
I'd like to ask about accessibility issues, because that's always a challenge, since my demographic is overrepresented in your audience members.
Yeah, great question, Judy. And we will be taking a look at that. Obviously, it is an accessible building, but as you know, it's not the most accessible. You have to enter from 4th Street. You have to take that elevator to either the main floor or the mezzanine area or the 3rd floor. It's tough. Those challenges I think are going to be difficult to manage, but I think money solves a lot of problems, and we can certainly figure out, I think, a way to improve the accessibility of that space with our partners at Cook, with other folks that have worked on similar issues. But yeah, it's something that's going to continue to be a challenge, but you're absolutely right. We need to continue to improve it. One of the really easy, quick ways we could work with the city to improve the accessibility is to create a drop-off zone right there by the 4th Street entrance, a dedicated 15-minute drop-off zone for folks that have accessibility issues like they have in front of the Buskirk Chumley Theater and other locations. So anyone that is, traveling in your car, maybe has mobility issues, you always know that you're going to have a dedicated space where you can get dropped off at and attend the center. That's an easy one that we can solve as a community tomorrow.
Thank you so much. We need to hold questions until after we officially close our meeting. Kate and Gabe, are you able to stay for a few minutes to answer any additional questions?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can stay for a few minutes.
Thank you so much. In honor of your presentation today, we'll be making a donation to Beacon Inc., our quarterly speaker recognition recipient. So thank you. And Sally, will you tell us about next week's program?
Yes, another amazing program next week. Historian James Madison will be discussing his important new book, The Ku Klux Klan in the Heartland. Please join us.
Thank you. And Natalie, will you share the four-way test so we can say that together? Of the things we think, say, and do. First
is the truth.
Second,
Is it fair to all concerned?
Third,
Build goodwill and better friendships. Fourth, beneficial to all concerned.
And fifth,
Is it fun?
thank you. Okay, and so Jim Sims, you are up next. Go ahead.
Oh, is this time for questions still?
Yes.